All right. Well, welcome to Roots of Reality Experiences. My name is Ben Baumann, and today I'm joined by Joe Bouchard, who is the bass player and one of the lead singers of the legendary rock band Blue Oyster Cult. During Joe's time with the band in the 1970s and 1980s, the band dominated the charts, winning 9 gold and 2 platinum awards. Lastly, since retiring from the band, Joe has also released 7 solo albums. So, Joe, thanks for coming on today.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, how did you first get interested in music?
Oh, it goes way back, way, way, way back. Um, my uncle played some jazz guitar, and I would go over to my cousin's house, and we would listen to them jamming in the living room. You know, he and his weekend warrior jazz guys would be playing tunes, and then I guess we got sort of uh, drawn in by the rock and roll guys, the early rock and roll guys. It was a fun thing to do, you know. I was a pretty shy guy, you know, and hey, if I want to get out there and meet people, meet girls, I had to learn how to play the guitar. So my uncle lent us a couple of guitars in the early days, and we played. Nobody wanted to sing. Nobody wanted to sing, so we did songs by a group called the Ventures. I don't know if you know the Ventures, but they were a kind of all instrumental guitar group
Okay.
playing Fender guitars, and so we learned a lot of Ventures songs in the earliest days of the band, and then finally the Beatles came along, and
Surprise.
the Beach Boys too. We
Yeah,
were,
yeah.
we were big Beach Boys fans, and so somebody had to be the singer. So we all sang really, you know, but I kind of enjoyed it more than the others. Maybe I don't know. No, we all sang, and it was fun. You know, my dad, part of I've heard all these stories about musicians that their parents did not encourage them as musicians, but my dad really had a job in the entertainment business.
Ah, okay.
He was a broadcast engineer back in the early 50s when I was a young. He was a broadcast engineer at WWNY radio and television in Watertown, New York. And so I think he understood, the idea. He always said to me, make sure you get paid. Make sure you get paid no matter what. You get paid, because if they don't pay you, they treat you badly, so
Yeah.
and one of our first so we started this little band. It was my brother, myself, my cousin, a couple other neighbors. We had this little band, and one of our first performances that was really cool was to play on the cartoon show
Hmm.
at the TV station. So we're just like little kids. I mean, I must have been like 12 years old, 11 or 12 years old. And we played on the cartoon show between the cartoons. And it happened to be, it was like a 4:30 in the afternoon. And it happened to be a very rainy day. So all our friends that would be outside playing were inside watching the cartoons when we played. So all of a sudden we became sort of a celebrity,
Yeah.
Oh, you played between the cartoons? Wow.
There you
And that
go.
was set up by my dad, and then later on, we lived on a farm in upstate New York, and we had, it was mostly like vegetable farming. We didn't have any cows, but we turned the barn into a dance hall, and every week we would have barn dances on
Wow.
our farm, and that was another thing. My mom ran the popcorn stand, and my dad took the money at the door,
Jeez. Okay.
making sure we got paid.
Yeah.
And it was quite an event. So um, all of those experiences were just uh, fantastic, And I said, well, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? I mean, I don't want to, I didn't really want to be a farmer,
Yeah.
didn't really want to take on farming. So I said I would, study music. And when I graduated from high school, I went to Ithaca College, the School of Music at Ithaca College, and I was there for 4 years. I wanted to be a guitar major, but there was no such thing in 1966. So I went to my singing teacher. And I said, "Hey, I'm going to go to music college. Do you think I could be a singing major?" And he said, "Well, I've heard your voice, and why don't you go talk to your trumpet teacher?" Because I played trumpet in the school band. And I went to my trumpet teacher. "I'm going to go to college and study music. And you think I could be a trumpet major?" He said, "Well, I've heard you play. Why don't you go talk to your piano teacher?" Because he knew I played different instruments. Nice guy. All of these guys were the greatest.
Yeah.
I don't think that they um, had the where I kind of thought I knew where I was going with my life, but knowing how difficult it is, to be a instrumentalist in a college music school is really tough. So, but anyway, I went to my piano teacher, who's this nun, 80-year-old nun, Sister George. So I went to Sister George and I said, "I'm going to go to college and study piano." He says, "Yes, you can do it." She had no idea how hard it was. She had no idea how hard it was. But I really worked hard my sophomore or my junior and senior years, and did a lot of practicing piano. I was still when I got through my audition somehow, through a miracle, got through my audition, got to Ithaca College, and I was the worst piano player there. I mean, these kids, they start when they're 3,
Yeah.
they start, and they're playing concertos and all of that stuff, So I could play like Jerry Lee Lewis on the piano. I could rock out, play rock piano, but there was no major for that, But my life at Ithaca College was fantastic. Played in bands every weekend. I was like, it's there near Cornell.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was like every weekend was like Animal House. And you could play, 3, 4, 5 jobs in a weekend.
Jeez. Okay.
And so I never had to work in the cafeteria, and I learned a lot of, played with a lot of different people, and it was quite a experience. And let's see. Then when I graduated from college, I said, "What am I going to do?" And I had a summer job where I was playing piano in the summer theater. I was a musical director in a summer theater. My brother, who had taken a different path from our original teenage band, he was in New York working with the band that had a deal with Elektra Records, and they were making albums, and they had a band called Soft White Underbelly, which was signed by Elektra, and they sort of made 2 albums, but nothing was ever released. So he called me up in the middle of the night, in my summer job when I was working in the theater, and said, "We need a bass player right away. We got a tour with Led Zeppelin coming up."
Ooh. Okay.
And I'm thinking, "Yeah, this is my dream. This is what I want. I want to be in the big time,
Yep.
So I said, "I'll be there as soon as my summer job is over. I'll be there." So Labor Day weekend, I rolled into the band house in Great Neck, Long Island, and I said, "I'm ready to go on tour." and they said, well, the tour's not happening. Led Zeppelin decided they don't want an opening act, and most of the shows that most of their career was just one act. You
Okay.
know, they opened a few. They had a few opening acts in the very beginning, but very quickly it became a one act show. So, and that same week we got dropped from Elektra Records.
Jeez.
So it was a bad week. No tour, no
Yeah.
record label. But I told the guys that, I was in and I was excited about it, and we're gonna make this thing work. And about a year later, we played all kinds of dumpy bars, and we went out on tour and came back with less money than we went out with, and
There you go. Yeah.
it was, we're really down, but we kept playing working on our music, and trying to figure out what we were going to be. And then about a year later we did an audition. Had some demos, and we did an audition for Clive Davis at Columbia Records, and he liked us. I was amazed. He liked it. I don't know why. We were nothing like. Okay, here's a little side note. Columbia, Clive Davis was talking to Led Zeppelin, and they were supposed to get Led Zeppelin. And they had the deal was all set. He was going to really go big time into rock music, because before that Columbia was like middle of the road.
Okay.
Mitch Miller, Sing Along with Mitch, and they had a great classical music division. It was all great, but finally wanted to get into rock. Then Peter Grant, Led Zeppelin's manager, signed with Atlantic Records very suddenly. So I think that one of the reasons we got signed by Clive, because he was still stinging from losing Led Zeppelin. It's maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
That's my theory. So we got signed, and then started putting out albums. It was a good run. It was, we really, really worked hard, in the early days. It was just constant. We never had a day off, and if we weren't playing a few like casual shows, we change our name. We play some of our own songs and say they were covers of Glenn Campbell or somebody. It was just ridiculous stuff. But we'd end up playing as our own songs as much as possible. And there was, once we got signed with Columbia, there was a need to come up with new material every year. There was a new album that had to be done. So I started writing, and I'm surprised that a lot of the songs that I wrote, I still get emails all the time from fans that love the earliest songs.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and that keeps me going, makes me want to do more solo albums and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, songs are kind of timeless, and it's something that people can always discover or rediscover. So yeah, I mean, I think one of the things like that's different versus like say movies or TV shows where it's obvious how different things are in time. Like music, though, in many ways,
A
doesn't
good
have that.
song is
Yeah,
forever.
exactly. Yeah. So that is cool. So
Yeah,
how'd you
I've
guys
been
then
lucky.
become like a Blue Oyster Cult officially? Because you guys had.
Well, we had this name, Soft White Underbelly, but that was a 60s name,
Okay.
and it was invented by our manager, who was a big part of the concept of Blue Oyster Cult. Sandy Perlman, from the very beginning, was the manager, and he was a great concept guy. He had this idea that we could really take over the world, and be different from everybody else and not have to follow the trends. We could do a lot of interesting songs. He had a concept for a album. It was a song cycle. You could call it a song cycle called Imaginos, the soft doctrines of Imaginos. And a lot of the songs that we did in the early days and later, even later days, and my brother is still doing to this day, is the Imaginos trilogy. It's a
Okay.
trilogy of songs. So one of the songs in Imaginos was called Blue Oyster Cult. And I had seen the lyric and I said, oh, okay, interesting. But we weren't doing anything with it at the time. So we got the deal with Columbia and we had to have a name to put on the contract. And it was time to buckle down, come up with a name. The hardest part of being in a band is getting the name that's going to last. And so we didn't know, we were wasting a lot of time. We needed to rehearse and work on new songs, but the name was just it just boggled our mind. We didn't know, the crazy names we come up with. And then, so we had a meeting with our managers and we said, we're going to lock you in this room. You don't come out of that room until you have the name. And we figured, oh, they're going to be in there for an hour, and we were practicing in the next room. And they came out like 2 minutes later and they said, we got it. It's going to be Blue Oyster Cult.
Wow.
And we're going, what? We're going to be Blue Oyster Cult. It's kind of slimy and, dark. But it's kind of like Pink Floyd. Sandy's was he was into the Doors. He was into Pink Floyd. And he didn't want our faces on the cover to begin with. We would be this mysterious group. And that was part of the concept. It would be a mysterious group that can go in any different direction, as long as it's good, and our singer, Eric, and the guys in the band, they were definitely into science fiction.
Okay.
So we thought we would, definitely use that and the horror movies. And, we did a lot of vampire songs and
Yeah.
I did a few of my own vampire songs. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to do that kind of stuff and not have to do, typical, top 40 love songs. That was not our bag. We were not going to be Journey,
Yeah.
Don't Stop Believing. No, we were going to be the weird guys. And we liked that. We kind of enjoyed that, Of course, and then to take an example of, our guitar player's brilliance, Don Roser, now he's known as Buck Dharma more often. He wrote our biggest hit, Don't Fear the Reaper, which was a genius because he could combine the science fiction with a love song. And you had this very, wow, and what can I say? That song gets, 4 million streams a month.
Yep, that's right.
Year in, year out. It's in, 75 movies and TV shows, not to mention Saturday Night Live. We don't have to mention it because it's so big.
Yes, it's
How did that ever happen? When I thought, well, we'll just start this little band and play some concerts, and eventually I'll retire and and become, retire from that scene and become a music teacher in a high school somewhere. No, it's just well, I did teach for quite a few years. I was a teacher and I had a lot of different experiences after Blue Oyster Cult, because I was in 16 years. Played about 4,000 shows, something like that. Is that right? I don't know. Somebody keeps an archive of all of this stuff, and it was a blast. What else do you want to know?
Yeah, well, I mean, so you mentioned like Don't Fear the Reaper song, and obviously that, yeah, as a legendary song that will just continue on and on and on
Yeah,
for generations and generations.
yeah.
Um, I am curious, what was your guys' reaction when the SNL skit came out? Which,
Oh,
was obviously pretty popular. So,
well, it came out 23 years ago, believe it
right.
or not, in
Yeah.
2000. And the 90s were not great for the popularity of the Blue Oyster Cult. But when that happened, it opened up a whole new generation, you know. And I think that the nice thing is, yeah, that generation grew up on grunge and hip hop
Yep.
and, rap music. All of a sudden, they were turned on to Blue Oyster Cult, and then they find out how deep the catalog is. The
Yeah.
original 14 albums that I played on, there's a lot of good stuff there.
For
So
sure.
it just sort of, you know, floats the whole thing up, Um, I thought, I thought if we lasted 3 years and got two albums out, I'd be happy. If we were as big as Moby Grape,
Yeah.
you remember Moby Grape?
Not much.
No, I said maybe we could be as big as Moby Grape.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, people talk about them occasionally, but they are a footnote to the
Yeah.
whole thing, and we've done better than that.
For sure. Yes, definitely so. Now, did you guys use a cowbell in any other songs?
Occasionally we used
Okay.
percussion here and there. It was kind of true. The legend has it. Legend has it. And I was in the studio when the cowbell was struck for
Right.
that song. We had finished the song. It sounded great. I mean, it wasn't done like in the skit. It was done like it was a live thing. No,
Yeah, yeah.
this was an overdub thing. We had one track. It was 24 track machines. Nowadays, my computer here can do 1,000 tracks.
Yeah.
But back then, you had a limit. There was 24 tracks on the machine, and so they had one track left, and they were going to do some little percussion on the last day of recording. So I'm sitting in the control room, and they tried all kinds of. They had bongos and all kinds of crazy stuff, and that's not going to work. And they tried other overdubs, and no, that's not going to work. And then finally, this co-producer of ours, David Lucas, who is a genius. I think he's a genius. He's fantastic. That did a lot of the harmony work and some beautiful harmonies, and he was a good guy to know when we had sort of peaked our performance level. He was good at that. But he's the one that said, I think it needs a cowbell. Albert, go out there. This is not my brother Albert.
Yeah.
Go out there and play a cowbell. So I'm sitting in the control room, looking through the glass, and I'm saying, "Don't screw this up. Come on, don't screw it up." And I'm like on the edge of my seat. I said, "What's going to happen?" So he's out there. He's doing it. One take, perfect. And I felt like that great sense of relief. Oh, great. One take, perfect. And then, really was amazing. About 2 weeks later, they had finished the mix, came back into the studio, and I couldn't believe it. The mix was incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. What an incredible mix. It had what I couldn't have dreamed it better. I couldn't have dreamed it better. And yeah, took a little while. Columbia wasn't convinced it was going to be a hit. I don't know what the first single was, but they put the album out in the spring, and Reaper wasn't a hit until the fall. So it was
Okay.
about 6 months of just sitting around.
Yeah.
And radio stations started doing their own edits.
Okay.
They try to make it a little shorter. But finally finally it went, and it was a hit even on AM radio. Went to number 12, which we wish it had gone to number 1.
Sure.
But in the hearts of our fans, it's number 1.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. That's
Yeah.
cool. Wow. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Gosh, I'm trying to think of what other hit songs that exist that have a cowbell in it.
Oh,
Like
there's a
that.
few. Mississippi Queen.
Okay. Yep.
Beatles used cowbell several times.
Okay.
Baby, You Can Drive My Car.
Yeah.
Beautiful
Okay.
cowbell part. Yeah, it's part of the thing. I think I have a couple cowbells over there
Yeah.
that I use. Didn't use any cowbell today, but maybe I
Yeah.
should.
That's right. I mean, just start a band based around a cowbell, and there you go.
That's the whole key to the Saturday Night Live thing.
That's
It's
right.
so ridiculous.
Yeah, that's right.
It's so ridiculous. And then Christopher Walken comes out, and you think, oh no, it's it's a little too much. No, I need more cowbell.
Yeah.
I want that cowbell.
I mean, I
You
think,
know,
yeah.
yeah. There's a lot of like Latin groups like War.
Yes. Yes.
Low Rider and stuff had lots of cowbell there, but you would expect that, or Santana.
Sure.
But a very sort of serious heavy metal band with a cowbell, that's
right. A little unique. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I
Anyway.
remember when that SNL skit came out, because I was familiar with Blue Oyster Cult, but that kind of just got my imagination going to go back and
Yeah.
dig deeper.
Exactly.
And because I mean, Blue Oyster Cult came out, when my dad was in college. So
Yeah.
it was something for me to discover later on, which is really cool. And I mean, yeah, the cowbell from that point on became something I'd always think about with Blue Oyster Cult whenever someone mentions a cowbell.
We had no idea that they were going to do it for the first, I guess they had to call the publishing company, which was Sony, to use the song. Maybe not,
Yeah.
I think also it was like one of those things that is kind of lost in the ether. It was the last thing they did on late. It must have been late at night, almost 1 o'clock in the morning, and they're all getting a little punchy. And they had tried the skit a couple weeks earlier, and it didn't work, and it had to be cut. So finally, they thought, "All right, guys, let's do this." And then Will Ferrell puts on his shirt.
Yep.
It's too tight.
Yep.
They didn't have that in the dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
He just put it on at the last minute, and then it just got crazy. It just got crazy. Yeah, but it did do its job as far as introducing us to a whole new generation.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Which was
absolutely.
Which was just a fluke. It was a fluke, Yeah.
I mean, do you remember the first time that you heard your band on the radio?
Yeah. It was the first single. It was back in 72 or 73. And we were on the George Washington Bridge, crossing the bridge, and we were listening to WABC. And they played, it was like late at night there too. So it was probably about 10 o'clock. We were going to a concert to see Alice Cooper.
Okay.
And in New Jersey. And we're in the car, and they played Cities on Flame with Rock and Roll, our first single. They never played it again after that. Got played once. It was tough to get our singles played on AM radio.
Sure.
Because they were playing the Spinners and the Temptations and Neil Diamond, stuff like that, real pop stuff on radio.
Right.
So, but I think there was somebody who knew somebody who was like the late night DJ on WABC. But that was exciting. That was still exciting. It keeps you going. You think, oh, if they can play that, they can play another one, you know.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah, it definitely
so
feeds the fire to do more.
yeah, 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 yeah. And then FM radio took off after that.
Right.
And then you know, that opened up a big place to play all of our stuff on FM radio. And we had a lot of friends in the radio business. We, you know, we all big gratitude to the radio people that you know, they wanted to play something different, and they had the ability to choose their own playlist at a lot of FM stations. And I still have a lot of friends in radio.
Yeah. I'm
Still have
sure
a
that's
lot of
good.
friends in radio, and reminds me of my days when my dad worked at the radio station. You know,
Yeah,
he was halftime at the radio station, halftime at the TV station. So, um, yeah, it was a good run. Yeah.
for sure. So, what was the 90s music 1970s music scene like?
Ooh, a lot of live shows.
Okay.
Um, People had to go to the live show because there was no MTV or any kind of or YouTube or anything like that. You know, if you wanted, if you'd hear about a band, maybe in a magazine, then you had to go to the show.
Okay.
You know, and you took away a live experience compared to now, where it's mostly, you know, I watch mostly bands on YouTube, but I get to see a lot of live performances too. I'm still a big fan of, you know, everybody, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and it was, yeah, it was live. We were traveling around a lot, you know, constantly on tour. One year we went around the calendar, and we were like 3 months into the next year, and the tour wasn't over yet. You know, it's like, okay. But it was good. It was fun. We had lots of fun and mayhem. Nobody had a video camera in their pocket in those days.
Okay. Yeah.
Need I say more?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we're pretty much a conservative bunch of guys, but we had lots of fun.
So, how would you compare, like, um, you grew up obviously during the 60s, but, became a musician really, with Blue Oyster Cult in the 70s. How different was the rock scene between the 60s and 70s, you think?
Well, in the '60s, it was I was you know, a journeyman, you know,
Yeah.
playing covers. I played
Yeah.
in a soul band. I had a folk group for a while.
Okay.
It was like the Folksmen. I had a Folksman group.
Yeah.
Um, um, I played in a Latin jazz band. It was the
Wow.
first time I played bass. We were patterned after Sergio Mendes. Sergio Mendes was on Herb Alpert's record label at the time, so it was really good, and I really learned a lot about bass. The leader of the band was my guitar teacher from college, and I convinced him that I could play bass, even though I'd never picked up the instrument. Oh, I can play bass.
Sure. Why
Well,
not?
I was.
Yeah.
It was easier reading bass music than piano music, because piano music you got to read two hands at a time. Bass music you got one note at a time. I can do that. So he had charts for everything the band did. We had two girl singers. We had percussionists. You know, piano players really good. They were all older people, older than I was, and for 2 years, I did that, and that was my last band before I joined Blue Oyster Cult. Was this Latin band, you know, playing charts and singing harmonies, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun, but you wouldn't know that was going to lead to the wild psychedelic days of the early Blue Oyster Cult, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, I I pride myself in being versatile, you know. Uh, um, Eventually, I got my master's degree in music, and I studied music composition
Oh, okay.
at the
Wow.
University of Hartford. This is in the '90s, so I got a master's degree and studied how to write for classical music, and I did a ballet piece as my thesis
Very cool.
for
Jeez.
and I've written music for ballet and yeah, just a lot of different things like that. I don't keep up with it now. I'm more back into writing songs. And one of the songs I wrote for Blue Oyster Cult was covered by Metallica.
Wow.
And that was I wrote the song in 1973. And when Metallica was like they were in junior high school then, but later on they decided they were going to do an album of covers called Garage Inc. It was very successful, sold 5 million CDs all over the world. And one of the songs they put on there was a Blue Oyster Cult song. So I said, well, it's probably one of the, obvious ones.
Sure.
No, it was this song that I wrote called Astronomy.
Yeah.
Astronomy and that was in 1997 that they put it out. So, that opened up a lot of doors too. But for me personally, it changed my life. I was working in a book publishing company. I taught for a few years and then I got into writing educational books.
Okay.
And then Metallica was going to play my song. Wait a minute. I shouldn't be doing this. I should be writing more songs.
Yeah, there you go.
So it was a great song. They did a tremendous version of it. And that encouraged me to quit my day job and go back to writing songs. So I connected with a lot of the people I knew from the early days. Ian Hunter from Mott the Hoople. He wrote songs for Blue Oyster Cult. So I started working with Ian Hunter, and we co-wrote some songs, and then started putting out independent records. I mean, you can do that now because the power I have right here with my computer is more than we had in the 70s.
Yep.
And the quality is pretty amazing. I mean, I kind of miss the group together, working on an album, but this is what I do now, and I just started a new band, the Joe Bouchard band.
Yeah.
We just started playing this summer, and I'm really excited about that because it's a great live group.
That's awesome.
Mickey Curry is the drummer. He played on two of my solo albums, 2 of the 7 albums that he's played on the last 2, and they're really good, And then he decided he was touring with Bryan Adams, and
okay, yeah.
he decided to take some time off from that because Bryan is constant and he's worldwide. He's tours all over the world. So Mickey is playing with me, and got a bass player who's a guy I've worked with for 30 years in different groups, and tremendous bass player. So we just started playing. We played up in Vermont last week, and we played a show in Connecticut a couple weeks before that, and we got another show in Connecticut coming up. I'm excited. I mean, it's like, what am I doing? I'm starting a new band.
That's fun.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, that's right. Got to continue to do more things. So
yeah, more things to do, more places to play songs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's see. Now, how do you think then, like, rock music has changed over the course of your career?
Well, I don't know. I'm watching some of these new young rock groups. I watched a documentary just recently about the bands from the Brooklyn bands from the 70s or 70s, 90s, from the 90s. When I was teaching and I'd hear about these groups like the Strokes and the Yeah Yeah Yeahs and the Moldy Peaches, and there's a great documentary, you know, and they sort of kept the rock thing going. I don't think there's a good scene like that happening now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's different. You know, there's not real rock music. It's kind of there's different genres.
Hmm.
I don't know. I kind of like Greta Van Fleet. Do you know them?
Yeah,
Greta
I've heard
Van
them. Yeah.
Fleet. You know, kind of they're so much like Led Zeppelin. You know, singer especially.
Yeah.
He can wail like like Robert Plant, but I don't know. I wish there was something a little bit more new and exciting in the rock world. You know, and country music is crushing
Yeah.
is basically crushing rock these days.
Well,
And
yeah, it is. It is
and I'm
really
not crazy
interesting.
about it, but
Yeah.
like it's certainly selling a lot of tickets, and there's all kinds of new young country
Yeah.
guys popping up that I've never heard of.
I mean,
You know, what am
I
I
almost,
going to do?
I
You
almost
know?
feel like a lot of the genres have kind of shifted a little bit. Like I feel like rock has become more pop like. Like you see a lot of like indie pop type groups that kind of have like like the Imagine Dragons or something like that. And I feel like country has
I've seen
become
them.
have become like more rock like just with a country accent, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, country definitely has taken over the sort of music of the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It'll change again, you know.
Yep. Keep
It'll probably
shifting.
change again, and maybe they'll maybe they'll find some songs on my solo albums
That's right.
that they need
Who
to
knows?
cover.
Who knows what's gonna happen next? Yeah.
You never know. But I wish it was, just for the just so that I can get out there more. I'd like to see more rock, but
Yeah.
you know, so when I book a show, um, it's like I'm competing against tribute bands, country artists, not so much hip hop,
Hmm.
not in my world,
Yeah.
but there's all kinds of things happening, so there's kind of like old folk singers
Yeah.
coming back, going
Seems
one more
like it.
time.
I
Yep.
mean, probably the to find like rock bands today that are, kind of doing the more traditional style of rock, you almost have to search for like independent groups on like social media or something now because they're not getting the major labels necessarily. But I've been seeing randomly like groups pop up on like Instagram or something like that that are kind of doing that.
Yeah, yeah, Instagram. I do all of that. I just signed up for Threads.
Oh yeah, that's right. Me too. Yeah, the new thing.
Hey, let's be friends on
Yeah,
Threads.
we're gonna have to do it. Yeah,
Why not?
absolutely, absolutely.
I put my Twitter icon way down at the bottom of the page. So I've got,
Awesome.
got to do
Okay.
the Facebook, got to do this, that. It's kind of exhausting
Yeah.
to follow all the Facebook. But if I find a group on YouTube and I watch a couple of them, the bots in the
Yeah.
YouTube feed,
Yeah.
they'll start slamming me with
That's
more
right.
stuff,
All the logarithms start churning. All right.
Yeah.
Let's give you
I
more
was kind
things.
of lately I've been into Todd Rundgren because for a long
Okay.
time I didn't hear anything from Todd Rundgren. What's he doing?
Yeah.
He's kind of like disappeared. And now I started watching a couple of Todd Rundgrens. Now everything is Todd Rundgren. I went to see him live and he was fabulous.
Yeah.
He and Daryl Hall.
Oh, okay. Sure.
They were both. Yeah, it's a duo kind of thing that they
Yep.
do, and I've always been, fan of that stuff. Well done, great singing, great backup band that they have. So, yeah, it's still pretty vital, But like I say, I wish there was more exciting new rock.
Yeah.
It's tough because it is kind of splintered, and I guess there's a lot of you know, but you got to be of the age where you get out and you go see
Yep.
them, so I have to pick and choose what I go see.
Yeah. That's right. One of the challenges. Yeah.
You know,
I'm curious, in Blue Oyster Cult, I know that I read that you guys had all sung on different songs, kind of taking the lead on different songs. How common was that in the 1970s? Because I know, like in the modern era, typically there's like one, okay, you are the singer, and there's very defined positions. So
well, that's kind of a Beatles thing.
yeah,
Emulating the Beatles. The Beatles taught us that you could have more than one singer, one singer in a band. And yeah, yeah. And also, I think the songs that we wrote were kind of personal to each person.
yeah,
So usually they would end up singing their own songs. It was very tough for the record label because they want to just promote one singer, the Billy
yeah,
Joel.
yeah,
It's easier for them to sell one singer than to sell a Beatles with four different singers.
right,
But what what uh, what variety and uniqueness the Beatles had.
yeah,
I mean, Keith Richards sings a few Stone songs. It's always refreshing to do that. Not much else. Nobody else gets to take over Mick Jagger's mantle.
yep,
I don't know. I guess they don't have that much trouble selling Rolling Stones, but
right,
yeah, it was kind of odd for us to do that,
yeah,
and I just we didn't plan it or anything. It just happened.
sure,
Yeah, and not until after Reaper, and we started thinking, well, how can we better market this? And then we said, what are we talking about? Forget about it. We're gonna do what we do. You know,
that's it. There you go. That's right. Just be
we're
yourself.
just gonna do
Yeah,
what we do, and
yeah,
there'll be some different singers here and there, and hope that people like it.
yeah.
And so far, we're
It's
quite
worked out. Yeah.
yeah, we're quite happy at the longevity is a lot. No, never dreamed. Like I said, 3 years, two albums, be as big as Moby Grape.
I heard you guys are also fairly innovative when it came to like using lasers on like stage during live performances and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. That was a '70s thing. As the '70s, uh, the shows got more fantastical. You
Yeah.
had to add something, and even from the early '70s, Alice Cooper would tell us, the audience, they really want to see something. You can give them all the music, and he had great music, great music. Um, but they want to buy that ticket so they can see a show.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and we liked that. We were the opening act for Alice Cooper in the early days, and it proved to us that we could be different. We could definitely be different and make it work. Because
Yeah.
they did. In fact, I still play with a band with Dennis Dunaway, the original bass player from Alice Cooper. He's one of my oldest. Played with him more than anybody probably
Wow.
on the planet, and I love doing this band called Blue Coop. We got a new CD, a DVD coming out this fall, and it's a combination DVD. So it's got animation and it's got some live performances that haven't been seen, and and a whole nother new album of new songs. So, you know, but when we do Blue Coupe shows, I get to do songs, choice songs from the Alice Cooper catalog, as well as the Blue Oyster Cult catalog. I mean, there's just so much music. You can't do it all,
Yeah.
you know. So, yeah, I really enjoy, where, the music is at, it's a
It's
lot of fun.
it's amazing how many things you're still involved with. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah, I can't believe it either.
Just like one band here, one band here, just
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I've actually cut back. At one time, I
okay.
was in like 5, 6 bands.
Oh my gosh.
I was in 5, 6 bands. I really was, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the variety. I would have like a notebook. Nowadays, you put all your notes on an iPad, so it's like cheating.
Right,
You
right.
got I got, uh, but back then I'd have to carry like notebooks, and I would just open that notebook, and that would take me right back to where that band just left off.
Okay.
You know, I guess that's from my years of schooling.
Yeah, that's
Get
right.
organized.
That's important. Especially if
Yeah,
you're that many bands, you need to be organized to do that.
yeah. You got to be organized. You got to have lists and you know notes. So you don't mess up.
So, reflecting then the big picture, what would you say is like your proudest moment from your career thus far?
Hmm. Uh, that's a good question. I would say in the 70s when we hit with Reaper,
Yeah.
I knew that and we got to a point where uh, we could just pick and choose our shows, what we wanted to do, and they were all great. I would say playing Madison Square Garden, we played there 3 times. Always was good. Some of the stadium shows in the 70s and the 80s into the 80s played stadiums in Germany and France and England, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to pick one. It's hard to
It
pick one.
sounds like there's a
There's so
collection
many.
of great
Yeah,
moments. Yeah.
collection of great moments. I needed to start working on my book.
That's right. That's the next thing. Yeah, absolutely. Had to put it all down. That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on and sharing,
Well,
all your experiences. And
thanks for asking me.
sounds like you're all over social media, so people can find you there
Yeah,
and keep track of all your work and your
yeah. My
website.
website is joebouchard.com, and there's where I'm playing next, and a lot of links to videos, and just a whole host of entertainment.
Yeah, that's perfect. No, it's
Yeah,
super cool and impressive, and yeah, plenty of stuff to dig in from your career. So super cool.
yeah, yeah.